the basic diagnosis I have come to over the years of meeting with people who have come seemingly specifically for what is being offered here and by this one. And very often after a darshan, an individual one-to-one conversation that seems at the time to be one of an openness and a receiving as well as a transmitting, a sending of love and of truth, because that's basically our stock in trade, love and truth. What I have found consistently is that after the meeting, there's nearly always an opposite reaction of cynicism, of nihilism, even of fury. It seems that the current ego structure has an allergy to love and truth. Literally, when it gets too high a dose of either love or truth, and certainly it can't stand both together, it becomes inflamed. I hope people can recognize that if that symptom is occurring in your own personal space. But if so, and you suffer from this allergic inflammation, then we need to provide a remedy. So I propose, well, I have actually received and am going to offer you what I have received as let's call it a spiritual antihistamine. So can I ask Radama to actually write the word antihistamine, but write it as one letter on each line. I think you can see I'm about to inflict on you one of Shunya's infamous agonizing acronyms. But this is the key to the remedy. Let's see, antihistamine. Yes, you spelled it correctly, so I can go on. You come back, write the first two, which are apocalyptic nous, N-O-U-S. Apocalyptic, that's good. No, let's write the other one first, N-O-U-S. Oh. As they will soon find out that they will have to wear the noose, and that's another phase. The word nous actually is an ancient Greek word used by the philosophers, at least from Plato on, to refer to the mind of God. We get the words like noetic, noosphere, all of those words, and of course, the Greek version is gnosis, and both of these terms come directly from the Sanskrit jnana, which is the supreme knowledge that is literally the presence of the mind of God, or what we call, for the sake of atheists, simply fundamental mind. You don't have to believe that this fundamental mind belongs to a being, because that's not really what is intended, but it is being itself. So we are in an apocalyptic period, and that means a period of revelation. And so during a period of revelation, the mind of God returns to reveal itself. That's the actual significance of the current events that are, in a certain way, not only shaking the ground from under us, but taking it away entirely. So we have nothing to stand on. We are being forcibly pushed into the void because there is no solid ground to stand on anyway. And so the apocalyptic nous is now active, and T transmits, and we'll put the next one, and integral, just integral. And then the next four are the key. High intensity spiritual training. So that's what we're about to offer you, is a high intensity spiritual training regimen. Now I know there's a lot of people who are into high intensity physical training, but I'm not sure that there are very many who are engaged in high-intensity spiritual training. But because of the extreme nature of the times, nothing short of a very high-intensity practice will be successful in time. And if you do this training properly, let's write accessing. You will access the marvelous intelligence needed to navigate the eschaton. So that's our purpose in offering this antihistamine to you. And if you have this allergy, you should know that, like many allergic conditions, it tends to get worse and worse. And by the time you're in stage 3 or 4 of this disease, you can get very negative and soon even be unable or unwilling to practice because the toxic reaction to love and to truth, which will be fully present for you, will create a kind of a shock and a feeling in the ego of being poisoned by truth. And by love that only brings up all the pain of the past of being unloved, and all the cynicism about love, and all the defenses against love, and all the false versions of love that then developed, that became simply lust or possessiveness or neediness or some kind of egoic demand, desire, fury at one's disappointment, etc., but not love. So if you can relate to this, then this training program, I think, will be very useful and healing. And if you don't relate to it, it will probably be even more healing, because there'll be less resistance and less equivocation about whether you should commit yourself to this practice. And it really is high intensity, if only for the reason that it must be ceaseless. Once you begin this process, you don't stop. You can't go back. And for the ego, to have no back doors is the ultimate threat. And so you will have to endure what Cortez made his shipmates endure by burning his ships and saying, we either conquer Mexico or die trying. And we're either going to conquer the ego or we're going to die for not trying. But this is the moment of truth. That's really what the apocalypse means. And the moment of truth has to be also the moment of the flowering of divine love and of the full awakening and illumination of consciousness to our true nature. So let me know if in the lodge or online, or I'd like people to put your hand up if you want to participate in this, because if there aren't a lot, then I won't bother teaching it. So let's see. Oh, okay, there's some interest here among the Nivasis. That's great. It looks like I see some hands going up online. We have a real true online Sangha here. This is very heartwarming. It's taking away my own allergy. Thank you. This is very healing. Okay, so we will now proceed. Actually, I think you can erase this one, because now I'm going to have to put the actual high-intensity training regimen on the board. Let's give this a title, The 10 Principles of Training in Ultimate Liberation. It's very important that you recognize that this is not training for ultimate liberation. It's training in ultimate liberation. Because that liberation is the state of presence. It is here now. So, the first principle, if you'll just write number 1. The first principle is, we should have a trumpet go on. That's it. Effortlessness. Now, you may think I just contradicted myself. How can effortlessness be high intensity? But what you'll discover is that if your ego gives up making effort, it will create a very intense energy. Because all your ego wants to do is make effort. And the effort is usually to run away from yourself in the guise of seeking yourself or seeking the truth or the real, to run away from it. But effortlessness means you make no effort in any direction. That's in the Taoists, that's the core teaching. It's called Wu Wei. So this is not something actually new. It's always been here, but it has to be emphasized that this is the Tao. This is the practice. This is the teaching of Christ, of Shiva, of Buddha, of all the sages who have gone through the training and achieved the ultimate liberation. So the second principle, desirelessness. So the Wu Wei means you're not making any effort at all, but that's because there is no desire to make effort. So it's the letting go of the desire to achieve anything. Because ultimate liberation is here now. There is nothing more to achieve except for you to be here now for a change. The third is equanimity, which someone mentioned last night and was very accurate. So not only does it mean your heart is in repose, because not having any desires, there is peace, but it's a peace that is of such a nature that there is no urge to correct any errors. There's no desire for self-improvement. There is no fear of judgment or of being found lacking, no fear of not making it, no fear of abandonment by the real, by love, by truth, by the power of your real self. The equanimity is thoroughgoing and profound, so there is peace that is not going to be disturbed. And it means freedom from self-doubt. And self-doubt is one of the things that plagues the ego, but equanimity overcomes that. The next one is the fourth, no path or process. So this high-intensity training has no actual content. There's no process to follow. There's no path because there's no goal. And the whole frame of reference of the ego is always about needing to achieve a goal, needing to go through a process, a gradual transformation, purification. I have to go through purgatory. I have to overcome my sins, my bad habits, my dysregulated nervous system, whatever it might be. No. There's no process, no path. And that means really no action. There's nothing to do. The fifth, no special knowledge or preparation is needed or wanted. And that's because of what we spoke of last night, which is that information is ignorance. Information becomes the prison that the ego is embalmed in, mummified in. Its frame of reference becomes a dead belief system, which simply leads it to go around in circles because it can never achieve the one who is trying to achieve. The dog can never quite catch its own tail. And so in this process, if there is no information and there is no knowledge base to keep the mind thinking, what should I do next? How should I deal with this? How do I make this process more powerful, or whatever the thoughts are? Then you eliminate the interference patterns. But information always is a distraction from presence. Even if it's very high-level metaphysical knowledge. Because it's all of that is words, symbols, ideas. It's not the real. Okay? So that leads to the sixth one, which means, which is no conceptualization. So we're taking it even further. Not only special knowledge, but no concepts at all. Because any concept is going to take you from the real to the plane of representation. The concept, in the guise of enabling you to understand, actually takes you away from what you were, which is a powerful sense of being that can never be reduced to a formula of words. because words will always put it within a dualistic framework of I am in a state of such and such. And so the freedom from concepts is a much more high intensity, extreme letting go. And that means the mind remains empty. Because only in the emptiness can one be aware of the fullness of the light of consciousness that is all-pervading and filled with the immutable, effortless bliss of the real self. So that leads to the further consequences. Number 7, no acceptance or rejection. So this means don't have any attitude toward this training. Don't either accept it or reject it, or accept or reject anything that anyone tells you or gives you or wants from you. Feel what it's like to be in that state where there is not even a sense of being a someone who has an attitude of yes or no. I thumbs up, thumbs down, right? Everyone's trained to give likes and dislikes. But what if there is no acceptance and no rejection? Then one is freed from a very deeply embedded duality within the ego. What is. And then number 8, no cause or effect. Don't believe that this practice, or any sadhana, any practice of meditation, hatha yoga, vipassana, whatever it is that is your thing, don't think that that causes an effect of becoming enlightened or liberated, because that state is not something that is subject to causality. It is not an effect because it is eternal. It's never absent, but it's always absent from the ego. But there's nothing the ego can do to cause the unmanifest to appear. But by letting go of the desire to make something happen, to have an effect, and nearly everyone wants to be effective. I want to have an effect on the world. I want to have an effect on life, on history, on my family, on whatever. But there is no cause and effect because it's all the will of God. It's all the one self that is functioning through each one. So there is no individual agent who can cause anything. And nor are we the effects of a cause, because we are not actually different from the self that appears as the multiplicity. So if you can cope with that paradox, then we'll go even deeper into number 9, which means no duality. And to say no duality means you keep your mind neither in a subjective position nor an objective one. You don't perceive objects in the world. You perceive the presence of the self in everything. But that presence is not a subject. The presence of the self is everything and is nothing. but everything and nothing are not a duality. And so be very radical in your understanding of non-duality, which means there is no duality between duality and non-duality. And only when you've overcome that final belief in a duality between duality and non-duality will there be that which is in full emergence. But that emergence is not something that actually happens. It's something that is simply now understood without words, without thought, but as a deep realization of that which has always been. And that brings us to number 10, the recognition that there is no change. The self is changeless. The self is immovable, immutable, and without phases, without avastas, like waking, dream, sleep. It's without any, it's without growth, it's without transformation. All of those shibboleths that we tend to worship, it's without any of that. So these 10 principles have to be integrated. They are all aspects really of a single truth, and that truth is also love. Because when you have fully become the embodiment of these principles, that is what emerges, that is what shines, the light of consciousness, of presence, of freedom, of joy, of complete liberation is, even though there'll be no words to try to describe or to indicate it as something that someone experiences, but there will be simply an emergence, immersion into that oceanic presence from which there will be no desire to come out.